Good day and welcome to another TechCentral TCS Plus podcast. My name is Jaydev Chiba and today we're going to be discussing the topic of network management and network monitoring as a service with executives from Trace Network Operations that have joined me in the studio. So Trace Network Operations is a company that was formed in 2016 by founder Darryl Theron, who saw a opportunity in the marketplace for a bespoke network solutions company, particularly because of his experience in the Pan-African infrastructure market. Trace Network Operations provides solutions specifically for companies who have a requirement looking for leading technology solutions in the network management and network monitoring space today. So joining me in the studio today, we have Darryl Theron, who is the Managing Director of Network Trace Operations, and Gert van Deventer, who is the Head of Technical. Gentlemen, welcome to the studio.
Thank you. Afternoon, everybody.
Thank you very much.
So I think to dive into the topic of network management and network monitoring as a service, I think as a first question, perhaps can you share a little bit about Trace Network Operations and, how you got into the business of looking at network monitoring and network specifically?
Sure. As you said, we started the company in 2016. I saw a bit of a gap, and I went through the stages of finding a vendor partner that was willing and able to back somebody down in South Africa, which a lot of people didn't. And I was looking for a partner that wasn't based on open source technology. And I came across a company called InfoSim. They do a product called StableNet, and it's built from the ground up over a 20-year period. It's carrier grade, so there's no bolt-on, there's no coding, mixing and matching different solutions and stuff like that. And they also were open to allowing me to do the software as a service. So not only the outright purchase of the software, but to be able to offer it as a service to customers who didn't have the capacity to buy a full solution. And from there, I've built on to find other solution partners that actually, complement the NMaaS, because NMaaS does monitoring, management. So I've added NetWitness, I've added a couple of others that complement the NMaaS solution offering.
So in terms of a business problem that you're trying to solve, what are you helping businesses solve today?
Well, at the moment, majority of people working from home have to have internet access. And a lot of the providers haven't had the means or the resources to have a dedicated NMaaS or management system for their back-end networks. So for me, it's more of having the facilities for the providers to offer the services to the end customer that are reliable, that are available, uptime, all that type of stuff. Because at the moment, as I said, we all so, we need internet access. If we're working from home, if our internet's down, we can't work. So for me, it's just basically giving the functionality to the operators to be able to help them give their customers a good service.
So ultimately, it's about ensuring they deliver uptime to
Yes.
their customers and service to their customers in terms of the products and services that they...
Yeah, look, it's not necessarily only uptime, it's also the quality of service that is offered. Because if you don't know what's going on in your network, congestion and all the rest of stuff can be an impact of that. I think we've all had that problem at home. Get home and our internet's not working, and we don't know why. And then we have to phone the people. We're also offering something more proactive for the operators to leverage off, and not relying on the customer to notify them that they've got a problem.
So network monitoring as a service is obviously, central to the offering that you provide. How do you utilize the OSI model, the 7 layers of the OSI model, to structure and deliver these monitoring services?
Well, for StableNet itself, it does OSI layer 1 to 4. And then other solutions that we offer then, who can bolt on, as I said, to complement the others, which is more of a hardware packet broker, deep packet inspection system, which then offers the OSI from layer 1 to 7. But again, it's a solution offering. It's not, how should I say, it's not just one solution for everything. So the StableNet is a solution, and on top of that, you can have the more technical architecture of what you're wanting to achieve. But Gert can say something a bit more on the OSI stuff.
Yeah, so on the OSI layer 1 to 4, which is covered basically by StableNet, which is the InfoSim product, that gives you sort of the, let's say, the raw data as such. But when you start looking at the remainder of it from the OSI layer, let's say 4 to 7, that is where your applications actually come into the picture. Because you don't have the capability at layer 1 to 3 to understand exactly what the type of traffic is that is flowing through your network. You can see it as a network packet, but that's about it. But when you look at up to layer 7, then you can see the YouTubes, you can see the TikToks, you can see the type of applications. Even if you've got an ERP, you were able to actually decipher the type of traffic and the amount of traffic that flows through it. The benefit with that is that you can actually then go and basically strip out traffic that is not, I want to say, compliant to the policies of the business, and make sure that you only get the traffic that flows through the network that's actually core to the business itself. It also allows you to actually do a bit of threat detection, because when you do have threats, the type of traffic that will come through will obviously be not in the norm of that specific, let's call it policies that they will be applied to the business.
Yeah.
And also, just to add on to that, is that one big function of the StableNet platform, specifically from the layer 1 to 4, is to visualize the network, and to assist you to offer the best kind of service. Now, if you go deeper on that, and obviously then you add more functionality like the deep packet inspection, then you can actually also visualize that in the actual StableNet application itself under one umbrella. So there's no multiple systems looking at multiple sources.
Yeah, just to add on to that. Basically what it entails from a technical perspective is the information that is actually extracted through the network taps and the deep packet inspection can be basically consumed into the NMaaS. And alarms and monitors can be set up on that, so that if a YouTube stream is running on the network and it's not supposed to be running on the network, then it'll actually alert the end user or the management of the NMaaS that there is YouTube traffic actually existent on the network at that point in time.
So it feeds quality information through to the management team, the network management team, to be able to take action if they wish to.
Just on that topic, within StableNet there is a root cause analysis algorithm that can also consume information in that context, so that you can actually get to the origin of it as such, and it makes it much more, I want to say, consumable for the person that manages the network to understand exactly where this actually originated from.
The meantime to repair, it just speeds up the meantime to repair.
Yeah.
So it also speeds up the root cause analysis of where the problem may be.
Yes.
So how does Trace Network Operations utilize your StableNet product you spoke about earlier in conjunction with the Red Hat Ansible automation platform to achieve automation and scalability for your clients?
So we've had a user case. I don't know if people remember a couple of months ago, all the fiber cables on the West Coast died.
Yes.
Or landslide or something like that. So one of our potential customers basically planted a seed saying, can't you automate this? And then what happened is that there's a product called Ansible, which is open source, but then Red Hat bought Ansible and it now basically became a hardened enterprise version of the Ansible platform. which is automation. And then obviously it's owned by IBM. So I pointed to Gert and saying, look, let's look at this to see how we can actually use the information that we're getting out of StableNet to basically automate faults or rerouting of traffic if needed, or improving the service, So, yeah, then we just went to that and we sort of put something together, still in process, where we can sort of use Red Hat Network and Ansible to automate certain tasks, event-driven tasks or update tasks or multiple tasks that are, resource-intensive but time-consuming. Mm-hmm. So we played around with that, and we actually moving forward in actually marrying them together to actually get as much automation out of it as possible.
If I can elaborate on that, in essence, what it boils down to is I can do a full network discovery with that tool. In other words, I can take, depending on what the customer's requirements are, I can say, okay, let's do a full blanket network discovery across the board to see what we can get out of the network. Now, if you use more technical protocol, you should be able to actually discover the full extent of the network in such a way. It doesn't stop there. It actually also allows you to have configuration and change management, because what you can do is you can actually set up failover routes, and they can be dormant, sitting in a matrix for that matter. And utilizing the power of the Ansible platform, you can actually implement a failover routine to actually, if a network link goes down, reconfigure a device to actually fulfill the role of changing the configuration to actually route it through a different channel for that matter, or through a different network route. If you
keeping the service up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're improving resilience
yes.
of the network effectively.
So it means that your downtime will actually be limited in terms of that. I mean, you can literally do that on the fly in seconds.
And one of the user cases that Red Hat actually gave to us when we were talking to them is that there was an instance where fiber went down somewhere. I don't know if it was in Africa or Middle East or somewhere, and they said that the next morning the guys came back and nobody had been notified. They didn't even know.
Yeah,
everything had been rerouted, so they were able to sleep at night. They didn't get bugged by the CTIO because the service is down. So that's the type of user case that we're trying to mitigate with this type of solution, is to, as I keep using the adage, let the technical people be able to sleep at night, not having to worry that somebody's going to phone them at 2 o'clock in the morning, wondering why their service is down. And I think we've all had that in our careers. Even in the sales side of things, people phone you at 2 o'clock in the morning saying my service is down, and you're the account manager. So you also want to be able to sleep at night knowing your customer is satisfied.
No, I think that does answer that question in a nice way. Your solutions also involve a number of technologies, an ecosystem of technologies. So we spoke a little bit about StableNet. I believe you've got Cubro, you've got FNT, you've got scaled computing and Lenovo. So at the beginning you spoke about covering that full OSI layer, and also that you have complementary solutions. Yeah. How do these all work together in offering your services?
Gert, you can take that one.
I want to actually say they leverage off each other.
Yeah.
Because if you look at from a network and a pure technical perspective, your first port of call would be call it a CMDB. So you will use typically Ansible to run a network discovery, put the information that it actually gets out of the discovery, and it cannot just be only from a IP address perspective. You can get a little bit more out of that through the normal, SNMP protocol that you would deploy on that, and you would be able to actually extract information, put that into a CMDB, and then you will put in the StableNet structure to actually utilize that as a baseline and extract more information, depending on the model and depending on the vendor. That we can always elaborate a bit more in. But you can actually then go and use that as a baseline to actually build a full network architecture, call it diagram, for whatever you want to do. And then on top of that, you can bring in the firewalls so that you actually see the type of traffic flowing through the firewalls. That's where Sophos comes into the picture, because you can do management of the firewall. You can interrogate the firewall, even for that matter. Doesn't matter which one you want to use, through Ansible or through StableNet. If you look up the APIs in terms of that, all that information flows back into your NMaaS. And putting then Cubro on top of that provides you even more visibility in terms of that, so that you can actually get a full view. I want to say you can actually create a multi-dimensional model of your network and understanding exactly what's actually happening in that network at that any given point in time.
Just thinking of my own history in IT, I think of CMDBs, and companies spend an enormous amount of time trying to build CMDB from different sources. But using the Ansible solution, you have a very rich source of information to supplement that CMDB now.
And if you really want to push the boundaries on that, then you build on top of that the analytics that actually comes with StableNet. So you can use the analytics to actually bring that whole picture into one full view. If you really want to, I suppose you can bring in the BSS in the picture too.
It's absolutely a complementary solution to the broader IT management that most IT departments would be looking for in any case.
Yes. I always say horses for courses, because every single one of them has got a role to play. And the idea and when I say the ideal situation is to actually create this symbiotic domain for them to actually coexist and actually complement each other.
Just want to touch back on the automation we spoke about. Obviously you're getting so many tasks, so many alerts coming at your technical team, and they obviously have a limited staff complement. So automation almost becomes a necessity in that world.
Yes. So in fact, look, StableNet is also very automated. As I said, part of it is root cause and fault management, but it's not a ticketing system. So it creates alerts and creates severity alerts depending. But a key function of actually StableNet is a thing called tagging, and also thresholds and KPIs and stuff like that. So if you do it correctly and if you stick to a certain standard, those alerts that get sent through from the system on a particular device or a service gets, remediated within the system to say that system is down, but it's also going to affect that system and that system before it sends the alert to the ticketing system. It will basically filter out all the chaff, for lack of a better word, before the actual ticket gets launched or logged, so that it gets the right one. For us, we use the standalone ticketing system, but again, it's how it's set up to make full use of the information that you've got. Either if everything is integrated into the NMaaS from the Cubro perspective, from Sophos or firewall, doesn't have to be Sophos, could be any firewall. Then you get so much information that needs to be distilled and then passed on to the relevant parties.
Can I add on to that? I think if you look at it from an NMaaS perspective, the world is actually always there. Because we can basically connect to any provider that the capability is there to actually connect to any ITSM for that matter. It doesn't matter which one you choose, as long as there is an API that I can actually push information to so that it actually alerts. But I want to add on to that the other side of it. The NMaaS also have got a function where it works on a grace period. So if you've got an intermittent problem on a specific, let's say, link or device or interface, or it doesn't matter what it is in terms of that, it will actually monitor it. But if it happens more than often in a specific period of grace, it will alert you. It does not necessarily, you can configure that, and it doesn't matter how the what can I say, the network is basically behaving at that point in time. If the criteria is met and it's set in a certain way or configured in a certain way, the grace period will obviously override whatever the case might be. It also has the capability to actually, if there's multiple errors coming through at the same time, it will collate them into one, and you will only get one, event in your ITSM to say that there's a problem. It will reference back. You can actually have a dual integration. So whatever happens in the ITSM in terms of feedback on that specific alarm that was raised by the NMaaS, it will actually be fed back into the NMaaS to provide you with the information on both fronts. So you
close the loop effectively.
Yes. Okay. And you can even configure it to actually close that alarm on the NMaaS.
Yeah, it becomes bi-directional integration.
Yes.
So we spoke a little bit about security. With network security becoming a big priority for most organizations, how do you as Trace Network Operations integrate solutions like NetWitness, Cubro, and Sophos you spoke about to offer better comprehensive security monitoring and threat management?
Well, at the moment, we don't look. The NMaaS itself is, if it's a standalone product, you purchase it or we offer it as a standalone product, and you've got your own firewalls, your own thing. As we've said, it can integrate into that anyway. But from a service point of view, if we're monitoring a client's network already, I thought that from a business perspective, why don't we add a value-added service on top of that to do hypothetically network detection and response as a service? So again, it's all integrated, all visible in one system. So it's just an added value to the customer to not only be able to offer the NMaaS or monitoring or management of the network, but also the security of the network. I've got no push to go into the endpoints and servers and stuff like that, but I'm specifically focusing on the network itself, because that's actually the first point of entry for any intrusion is actually a network.
So your solutions are flexible enough to provide network management and components of network management. Correct. If companies want to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Or you can do network monitoring as an end-to-end service. Correct. Across all layers.
Yes.
Or you can do both and actually bring them together in one show.
Yeah.
Because
in
you
one
can,
view.
yeah,
one
well,
view.
yes, in one view, because you can integrate the firewall into the application itself from an NMaaS perspective. Yeah. I can actually look at the traffic on port level.
So it's very vendor agnostic.
Yes.
So the powers and actually the information you provided and the sources that it gets it from in one view.
Sure. So we've covered a lot of solutions that you've spoken about, but could you share some examples or case studies where your solutions have been utilized and has provided the value and the benefit for companies?
It's got a bit more technical stuff on that.
Yeah, I made some lists, yeah. So there's one specific one that was done for a major telco, and they span multiple regions. We spoke about it earlier on about it. So they basically implemented StableNet as a umbrella. In other words, they might have different vendors with different individual NMaaSs. But ultimately, it means that for every single network engineer, they need to know exactly how those specific vendor applications and, tech stack work to get the full view of that. And with StableNet, they can actually do it in one go, because StableNet basically brings all those vendors' information back into one single space. You've got one view. You don't need to learn. Well, you can learn if you want to, but you don't need to learn all the different NMaaS lingo, for lack of a better word, to actually understand exactly what's happening.
And this was done across all the countries that they operate in.
Well, not all the countries are deployed as yet, but will be.
Okay.
And also to give, one other on top of that is also to be able to give, how should I say, high-level management, the view of the entire infrastructure, not just per country or per region. So it's like the whole operation. And again, another good powerful point about StableNet, it's got a very powerful reporting. So reports can be generated for individuals and sent to them on a weekly basis, daily basis, a monthly basis. So if the technical person who's responsible for the network, he sets up a report or we set up a report, that goes to him daily so that he can report to his bosses, but then the CTIO or CIO doesn't want to know that granularity, he wants a big overview. So he can set up a report specifically for him that he gets on a weekly basis and it's automated. It's sent to him automatically, where then he can get a view of the big picture, for what he wants to see. He doesn't need to know really what's happening on the ground, but then he needs to know where's the money being spent.
Okay. Do you have any other examples you wanted to share?
I was actually looking at the Red Hat Enterprise Linux AAP case study, where the manufacturing company configured managing and configuring the network infrastructure across a full wide spectrum of sites. They wanted to do a standardized configuration on all their sites, and they used AAP to actually do that for them, as opposed to having a technical person having to go on site to do those type of configurations individually itself. Speaking of which, there is a function in StableNet called zero-touch provisioning. So I can take a set of devices and hook them up and push down a configuration onto every single one, and they will all look exactly the same. Then I don't need to have a technical person to actually do a configuration individual on every one of those specific devices. And the last one that I was looking at when we were talking about it was there is a healthcare organization that improved their threat detection rate by 80% on a global scale. So the tool that was used for that was NetWitness that they utilized for that.
Yeah. So look, some key user cases we can't say too much about, unfortunately. But just to hypothetically give you just an example that we like to use, we ran a POC a couple of months ago with a smaller customer, and when we were actually monitoring their printers.
Okay.
So we can monitor anything with an IP address, basically. So we actually monitored their printers, and then, they outsourced the printer to Kaseya or one of those, I don't know. And we actually asked them, said, who's supplying your client with the toner cartridges? We said, we don't know. So if you're monitoring the printer, which monitors the level of the toner cartridges, why don't you send an alert or get the system to send you an alert to your team to phone your customer up and say, can I bring you another toner cartridge? So again, that's generating a different revenue source for him and also helping out the customer, because I don't know about you, but if you've been in corporate, the last thing you want to print out a tender or something like that. You're out of ink. I don't think that's happened to everybody.
I know, it has.
So that's just a user case that's more of actually giving access to one of the potential customers, a different revenue source.
But there are many examples like that, right? It's a matter of going to look for it and say, I've now got this tool that can help me solve some of these process problems and task problems.
I want to add on to that. So we normally think in the context of SNMP. But there's another side to it. Yeah. Which is called telemetry, where SNMP frequency. With telemetry, it's actually the other way around.
It pushes the
It
information.
pushes it back in. And the application can handle it.
Can handle it. But the big problem with that is that SNMP's is standardized, telemetry is not standardized yet.
True.
So we have to be
Hopefully
careful.
somebody's out there listening to us. Please make a plan.
There's opportunity.
Standardize it for us so that we can all work on the same play field.
Yeah, because at the moment we have to basically, I should say, we have to engage with the vendor to basically create the connectors per vendor, which is a bit of a challenge. But there are a lot more requests coming through for telemetry.
But in time, you're going to have built up many of those.
Yeah. But the usual suspects like the Cisco's, Junipers, I think they've really been sorted.
I want to add onto this. Speaking of the first use case, the application or the NMaaS is not just for network devices.
No.
We have got a typical example where we actually interrogate an application.
Yep.
Running on a network. And we feed a lot of information out of that application back into StableNet.
From an analytics point of view.
From an analytics perspective. So if your application has got the capability to provide you with the SNMP type of information or push information through port 161, 162, and it is sent through to the NMaaS. That it's a template that we can use to consume that information back into the NMaaS.
So it goes back to that whole holistic view of multiple sources of
And for that
information.
matter, you can do operating systems too.
Yeah.
Same principles.
Like
apply.
you said, the world's your oyster.
Yeah.
Just take the time to
Even
develop it.
syslogs for that matter.
Lots of opportunity. But gentlemen, I think before we close the interview, I'd just like some final thoughts from both of you. What message would you like to leave with your audience?
If people are interested in on the software as a service side of things, get hold of us. We're open to no obligation 30-day trials to see if it offers value to you. And then, we look forward to going down this rabbit hole with multiple people.
I want to add on to that. Bring us your use case.
Yeah, definitely.
Yes.
Bring the use case.
We've actually just got a user case today, which we're working on, which is a bit weird.
And if we can make it work for you,
Yeah, we
anytime.
will. Definitely.
So, gentlemen, Darryl, thank you very much for
No
your
problem.
time
Thank you.
today. I think it's been an insightful conversation, and I wish you well in your future plans and hope you're going to be successful going forward.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Greatly appreciate it.